SX West Coast Boys Racing. The weekend before, which we unfortunately both missed, was the Triple Crown event.
Yes.
But I think that was the East Coast because we already had the Triple Crown in the West. So we missed that. However, this weekend, it was in Seattle. What I thought was very interesting about the track, and I actually don't think I liked it. I thought the track was either very short, that at the end of both races, 250, we're talking specifically about the main races now, we're not going to go into the heats or the qualifying, is that you had so much part of the racing was through traffic, and it did compromise a lot of drivers' like races or riders' races. And I know that like some people might argue that like, oh, well, you want every type of race and like people have to like be able to navigate it. I just thought it was just a little bit much.
Yeah, it was also interesting, I thought, to see that there was I mean, this is me speaking as this is my second season with Supercross. I've not ridden a dirt bike before, only motorcycles, but it seemed like a lot of people were struggling with the rhythm sections this time.
Not just the whoops, but also a few other sections.
Yeah, exactly, because they were, of course, there were different approaches to it, which is always interesting to see. Different lanes, of course, which do you want to go inside, outside, whatnot. But it was interesting to see that there was a lot more errors that were also happening in different rhythm sections, whether or not you were blitzing them or jumping them and different things. But it was something that I became very much aware of, which I had not noticed in other races. Yeah. That there was, I guess, maybe a high error rate. That didn't like end people's races. We had a couple guys that went off track. Yeah. But it was more in terms of like little errors that really cause some issues with people's races and maybe hurt them in the end as well.
And then also for reference, so the 250 SX, they did about a 47 second lap. So the top guys at least. So it is a shorter track. As I said, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure we watched it last year because I think we watched all of Supercross last year. Yeah. And I don't remember. I don't know if the track every year is the same.
I don't think so.
I do remember a shorter track. I don't remember, but I just remember feeling this weekend I was like, this track is for me at least a little bit of a miss.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I think there are other tracks that are much better.
Yes.
Or I enjoy watching much more.
That is true. I would be curious, which I hadn't looked up because I just thought about it, but what the riders thought about this track or this iteration of the track, because I'm sure it's similar to last year because it's in the same place, so they have a certain amount of space that they can work with. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely not my favorite layout.
But you know who really loves Seattle?
Who loves Seattle?
Cole Davies.
Oh, Cole Davies, he sure does. I mean, it was so exciting. I mean, going into it, I was commenting on his outfit.
Yeah, it looked like,
because it looked like he was wearing like khakis with a teal shirt. Like, obviously not. Yeah. But just the way the look was designed, and I'm sure it's, of course, intentional. Yeah. I mean, it's a brand. I mean, whatnot. But it was also great because you could immediately see where he was.
Yeah, you could immediately point him out. Yeah. I think he won the whole shot.
He did. He won the whole whole shot, and then he was just leading the race right from the beginning. Yeah. And it was nice to see because he's a rookie. He's, I think, 17 years old.
From New Zealand. Which I think is the only New Zealander on the track at the moment.
Yeah, so it's just really cool to see, and he seems like such a fun dude. I remember seeing having his dad interviewed, especially the first time he got onto the podium a couple races ago. So it's just nice to see, and like as you hinted at earlier, that this is now the 10th winner we have in the 250 category. It does include East and West. Yes. But I mean, that's just incredible.
That is awesome.
For the West Coast boys, the only person who has won multiple races right now is Hayden Deegan, which is 2. Everybody else has, like, we had single races.
Oh, really? I thought there was one other person who won 2 races.
Not in the West Coast boys. I don't think so. Yeah.
I will say also to Hayden Deegan, he fell in his heat and he fell in lap 1 of the race. And then he actually ended up making up a lot of places. Yes. So he rode a really great race. Yeah. You know, and what I also thought this race, due to the way some of the corners were, it was quite physical at times.
Yes. There's actually that one turn that was very physical in both race categories. But I mean, that was quite a lot of people got into each other's way there, and a lot more physical or like full on than I feel like we've seen in other races. We saw some beautiful battling on the track though. Throughout the 250 we saw Marchbanks and Beaumer really battling.
They were battling
it out
for a long time.
For a long time, which was really fun. Then of course, like you had mentioned, Hayden Deegan had to work his way through the crowds a little bit, and also just through the grid to end up in third place.
Yeah, because I think he dropped down like quite a lot of points.
I think he was in like the 11, 12 kind of situation, but he did move up quite fast.
Yeah.
There was a little moment where he and Shimoda were battling, but of course Shimoda is still injured. It's such a bummer because we love Shimoda.
Yeah, Joe is one of our guys.
I don't know why, but we just...
I don't know either. We started already supporting him, cheering for him last season. And then this season actually started out really excellent for him. And then he had this really freak accident I think during practice where one of the other teams...
where he got against the board?
One of their crew members was holding out the board and he was racing by that, and then he ended up hitting the board and breaking one or two of his fingers, which of course, especially in motorcycle racing or motocross racing, is so essential because you're constantly on the clutch, you're constantly braking, so you need both of your hands, and if your fingers are broken, it's just like absolutely devastating.
Granted, the 250 guys get a little bit more of a break every now and then.
But it's a broken finger,
it's not enough time to heal fully. But it's still nice to see him in the top 5. Of course, Hayden and Julian have been going head to head for the last couple of races. I mean, they're also 1 and 2 in the overall rider championship. But in especially this race, I think in the second to last lap, Hayden did pass Julian in that one corner where you were talking about, where there was a lot of physicality and he went like full bike in the way,
blocking him off essentially.
Exactly.
Which is completely legal.
Of course, and many other riders did it.
I think some people, there's also, because I think there has been some tension between the two of them, like there is some riders would give each other maybe a little bit more
grace,
or they wouldn't be as aggressive about it. But then again, of course, every point counts, and if you already don't like the other guy, you're just gonna throw your bike in the way.
Do you know what's going on between the two of them? I did read up on it, but I wasn't sure if you had.
I did not, because I wanted to mention something about the post-race interview that I wasn't a fan of.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we can get to that in just a second. However, so Cole Davies, got the whole shot, led the race from the beginning, and also really controlled it. And I'm super happy for him, and I think he will be very competitive later on.
Yes.
Especially, so I'm very excited. I mean, later on, in his career.
Yes.
He's
already competitive now.
Yeah, if he's already this good,
So we'll see where his career would lead him, or even just this season, how he will fare. But it's nice. I'm sure it was huge for him to win.
Absolutely.
So it's nice, and it was not an easy race for him, but he did have a great race. I think he was also one of the people who blitzed the whoop section, which that's why he had such a big leap or lead at the end. But yes,
I was gonna say I was surprised also that in the 450 SX, not that many people blitzed it, which I thought was surprising, because I thought people might have watched the 250 race, and if they're like, okay, this guy is blitzing this, and it's clearly working out for him, maybe I should try that too.
But I mean, we're always feeling a little iffy about the commentators for Supercross sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of sometimes of the commentating, because sometimes it's just a word.
It's just saying things to fill time. But they were saying at one point that the whoops, it was quite difficult to blitz those whoops.
It seemed like the whoops were a little bit further spread apart than they usually. I don't know. Maybe it just looked like this. However, I think also in Cole Davies' favor, it was that Marchbanks and Beaumer kept each other busy for a long time. So Of course, when you're trying to pass someone or when you're battling with someone, you're gonna not be lapping as fast as if you are in a riding in clean air and you don't really have to defend. You just have to really focus on your lines. So that makes, of course, a huge difference.
Yes.
So Garrett Marchbanks ended up coming second.
Yes.
And then Hayden Deegan was able to sweep in there and get that third, snatch up that podium, the last podium. Then we had Julian Beaumaire in fourth, and then Joe Shimoda ended up coming in fifth.
Yes.
And then after the race,
Yes.
Julian rode up to
Hayden.
So Hayden, also really big props to him because he is teammates with Cole Davies, the winner.
Yeah.
Went over immediately,
Yes.
Congratulated him because I'm sure he also can relate your first win in a 250 SX. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Then Hayden and Julian. So Julian immediately came over and was like, yo, this is not going to fly. Of course, I don't know exactly what they said. Maybe you looked it up.
Well, they did say, I mean, Julian was asked what he said, and he said he can't repeat it on TV. So I'm
which is fair. I'm sure there was a lot of cursing and stuff like that. However, from what I've heard and what was done in the posts that Hayden also said is that his family or his address was leaked online.
Yeah,
and then Julian said, and I'm just going to base my opinion based on what said. Julian was like, well, this is public records, which I think in the state of Florida, technically, if you're registered to vote, you can just look that up.
Yes, but it's something different, a little bit different.
Or I don't know if it's a business, but I will say I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of Hayden Deegan. He's not the type of rider that I'm supported. I thought last year he had some behavior also on and off track, which I thought was more off track. That was not really acceptable. And he's just not the guy that I'm rooting for, you know? However, I don't like the idea of leaking people's information, putting it out there, and then also potentially maybe like endangering his family, because I don't know exactly what it was, but I didn't like the idea of someone putting out someone's private information.
I hear what you're saying. Let me give you some backstory, and I'm curious to hear if that changes your opinion. But so basically, we saw them at the end of the race getting into each other's faces. We did catch Hayden also slapping Julian's helmet. We didn't see before that Julian had grabbed Hayden's.
He did, you saw it just for a tiny bit.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that. But they both got a fine. I think about $1,000.
Okay, I was gonna say that definitely gave me like flashbacks to Anderson and Jet last year. Jet Lawrence in 450 and Jason Anderson. They had like very much. They got together.
Yes.
And
also early in the season.
Much earlier than this, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that happened. So I had looked up originally just because I was curious if they got a fine. So they both got $1,000 fine because of code of conduct, stuff like that. Fair, completely fair. So which I didn't know had happened, I think about 2 weeks ago, Hayden Deegan was arrested.
What?
Yes.
What in the world? Okay, this is not what I thought you were going to say.
So I think it was about 2 weeks ago, Hayden Deegan was arrested in Florida.
Okay.
For he was so basically in like the sporting complex, he was in like a silver sports car. He was doing like donuts on a road where people enter the sporting complex. So it was in a place where he just shouldn't do it.
Okay.
Because it was in an active road in a way.
Okay.
It was not like a busy road because it was at 9 p.m. at night.
Okay.
But it was a road, you know, and he did it, and a sheriff or a cop heard it, and he went up with the lights, and he finished his donut. So he was arrested for stunt driving, and I forgot what the other thing was, but essentially, so Hayden Deegan posted a screenshot or like a picture of his arrest
of his mugshot.
Like it's like his mugshot, like his the charge that he was charged for, like stunt driving. There's some different another phrase, but it says it on there. And then he was released for $1,000 probation, and then he put like a smiley, laughing smiley up top, and he put certified, crying, laughing emoji. He put like certified stunt driver, you know, and then I don't know why exactly, but Julian and a bunch of other people reposted his arrest record.
Okay.
But on the arrest record, the same thing that Hayden had posted, but unaltered, it has the address on there. And so he didn't take off the address.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it was.
Okay, I see.
Which I'm like, I don't know if Julian maybe just didn't think about it and he just wanted to repost it.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I thought Deegan took it so like... I just like a child, like, ha ha ha, I was arrested. And then the next day he had posted, I don't know if this is something that was actually for sale, but he made like t-shirts with his mugshot.
Oh, this makes me cringe
and
so
like,
much.
like his logo over his eyes. And I'm like, to see that stuff like that just
it makes me not like you because
Yeah.
it's just douchebag behavior. Like, I get it. Like, you getting arrested has no impact on your life.
Yeah.
Clearly $1,000 doesn't matter to you
Yeah.
either. For a lot of people, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you also come from money. Like, your dad was really successful in the sport,
Yes.
right?
I mean, you had a park right behind
Yeah,
your,
exactly.
in your
Like, you
backyard
grew
essentially
up
to
with
train. Yes.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'm sure if you're a Hayden Deegan fan, you think this is really funny. I think it just makes me cringe.
Yeah.
I think it's really douchey.
Yes.
Okay, now that you're saying this, yeah, I'm like, okay, bro, I hope
Yeah.
I hope Julian will dominate and pass you next race. I don't want to say anything backwards. I don't wish anything negative on you.
No,
I just
no.
don't. I mean, granted, all of these kids or these guys are really young still, so immature behavior is probably not unexpected.
Yeah.
But it's just a little too douchey for me. It also sometimes it's kind of nice, like, in 450 you don't really get that as much, you know, because you do have a lot of grown men that also have families.
Yes, literally kids and married.
Kids and married, like, they got other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Not that Jason Anderson didn't get into it with Jed Lawrence last year, but it's not after he was arrested and posting, it's come on, dude, like, get a grip.
So that's why I'm like, I'm sure he could have hidden the address. I'm sure maybe there's other things that I don't know about that's going on. But after I heard that, I'm like, okay, like, it's like,
I was, when I saw all of that, I was like, I'm also not invested enough in this to look it up. I'm glad that you did. I think it's also good for the podcast that we at least have an explanation.
Yes.
I will say it makes me curious to definitely want to tune in next weekend.
Oh, for sure, because I want to see what this
because they will be back.
Yeah, because then that's why also Julian was like, yeah, I expected that if the two of us will battle, it will get more physical because there's this off the track drama as well. So he was expecting it, that if they get together, it will be a little bit rougher. But then now also looking at the overall rider championship, they're still 1 and 2. So Hayden is currently first with 149 points, and then Julian is second with 135 points.
Okay, so it's
and then
not
Cole
a lot.
Davies, our 17-year-old, is third at 129, and then our boy Joe Shimoda is fourth with 119 points.
That's actually not that bad.
No.
Like, I know 30 points and they don't race the whole season, but given your injury, love it.
Oh, for sure. But should we move on to the adults?
Yes, the adults. That's a little shady. 450 SX. It is, of course, because we missed last week's race. It was very shocking to hear that our beloved boy.
Yes, our beloved man.
Kenny, Ken Roxon, his shoulder is hanging by a thread.
Literally.
He apparently he injured himself. I'm not quite sure how that happened, and they did some type of MRI whatever on his shoulder, and essentially it's just barely hanging on. And he's doing a sport that's so violently shaking you around.
I mean, it's
and
absolutely...
you're constantly, like, you're using your shoulders at all times.
Yeah, I think it's really bonkers how... I mean, it makes sense, of course, seeing what these guys do, but how much of a physical toll this sport takes on these athletes, also these very young men. You know?
Because, I mean, Kenny's, what is he, he's 30?
Like early 30s?
No, he's 30. He's 2 years younger than me.
Oh, okay, so then he's 30.
So he's 20.
But it's just, it's it's just insane the physical toll the sport takes on, how often these guys are injured and also ride through injuries, you know, not letting them fully heal.
Yeah.
And then the question is, of course, what long-term effects it has on their bodies.
Yes. And it
you
also
know?
seems like there's like no really consideration sometimes for it.
Yeah, which is,
I mean, I also kind of not understand, but I do kind of get why Kenny is still out there riding, because he is third in the championship right now,
of course,
right?
yeah.
And he had a really excellent start to the season. He's already won a race.
Yeah.
So I get it. And however, also with Supercross is you don't really get any time off.
No.
Like very rarely do they have if you're in 450 specifically, you have like maybe 1 week off. We had one like I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They were off for a week, off a weekend, but it's like you're still practicing throughout the week.
And
right?
they were saying that his type of injury takes usually 2 to 6 weeks to heal.
And it requires surgery, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so it's like, so when the race started, Kenny was in second. Cooper Webb got the whole shot, and then Kenny was right there, and I was like, yeah, let's get him, Kenny, let's get him. And then Kenny dropped off for a moment, and then he was right back at him, and then they were battling. But then the longer the race went on,
but then Kenny also took lead for a minute.
He did.
He was in the lead for a minute,
and then we were hoping, because it was Webb, then it was Cooper. And then Sexton was coming up.
Yeah, first it was Ferrandis also in the mix.
Yes.
So there was a lot of action happening behind him, or like things to keep Cooper potentially busy, Cooper Webb busy. Yeah, Chase Sexton, Ferrandis was there. There was also Justin Cooper in the mix for a while. So I was hoping, maybe there is a chance that they will keep Cooper busy and then Cooper Webb busy, so that Ken can ride out a lead.
Kind of what happened with Cole Davies in first race.
That's what I was hoping, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. I mean, Cooper Webb ended up winning the race. Chase got really close at the end, like really close.
He was leading the race, right?
Did he lead the race?
He ended up catching Webb, and then Webb turned it up again. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not a Webb guy at all.
Cooper Webb, yeah.
Cooper Webb guy. But his race usually, like with Kenny, it's always like he usually starts out really strong, and then he kind of kickstart Kenny, and then he kind of falls off towards the end a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I mean I feel like falls off sounds like
falls off so
dramatic,
but he has more push in the beginning. I think in this race specifically, also I could imagine that his shoulder was just not.
Yeah.
It was probably hurting more and more as the race was going on.
Yeah.
Or maybe it started to hurt.
Yes.
Whereas Webb usually turns it up towards the end of the race, which makes it interesting, but also I don't like it.
No.
Because leave Kenny alone.
Seriously. Leave him alone.
However, I will say Chase and I think it was Malcolm, they got into it a little bit in the beginning of the race. And so Malcolm actually didn't make the first turn. He ended up going kind of straight and off the track. Do you remember?
Yes.
So Malcolm made up a bunch of places still. He ended up coming 7th. But I was kind of hoping Malcolm stay out of the sauce.
Yes, I mean, he does love to get caught up in the sauce.
Yes.
No, but it was also fun to see Aaron Plessinger on the podium again, which is nice. He had a slower start to the season. I think last race he was on the podium, but we said, we hadn't watched it. But it's just I mean, because who doesn't love seeing him on the big screen and being interviewed?
He's just so likable.
He's super likable. So it was nice to see. But I did want to point out again, Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton had this really beautiful moment. The last lap was just really tight. The last 2 laps. And then also the last corner going into like the final ramp in the finish line. There was like this moment where I was like, oh, if Chase would have gotten the inside of that turn, if he would have had just an extra foot, you know, he might have been able to take it.
I will actually have to give major props to Webb, because this is actually not how they were attacking the corner at all the whole race, and not in 250 or in 450 SX. Essentially, you went wide and then you cut in, but this time he cut off the corner. So because Sexton raised up and he was trying to essentially cut Cooper Webb off and then essentially block his way and throw the bike across. But I'm assuming Webb was anticipating this, and he ended up taking the corner that tight as well, taking it so tight that essentially Sexton wasn't able to squeeze between him and the barrier.
Yeah.
And major props to him. That was a really
100%.
cool move.
I mean, you can't say Cooper is not a good...
No, he came second last year in the championship,
exactly.
right?
I mean, and part of it, like, it's snuck up on me a little bit because he's consistent.
He's Mr. Consistent.
Exactly,
yeah,
he is, and he's really good at what he does. Clearly,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just like Chase a little bit better. I mean, I like Kenny best.
Yes,
but I would have loved to see Kenny win.
Yes.
I think given injury last year, of course, he had a terrible injury where his bike essentially threw him off.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
Yeah, towards the end of the season, very, very unfortunate. But also, yeah, once again, Chase has pace. Chase has pace. It's crazy. He was a lot further back in the race, and then he made his way through it. And when he ended up coming up to Kenny and Cooper Webb, I was like, okay, I'm hoping now Webb will be able to keep Chase busy. They keep each other busy so Kenny can drive out elite. But Chase, and it's like the commentator said, like, he let the race come to him, and then he ended up past both of them in one move.
Because it was so brilliant.
Mad lad.
Because Cooper and Kenny were kind of focusing on each other.
Yes, of course.
Like Kenny was blocking off Cooper Webb's line.
He did really good defending.
Of course. But then there was a whole other part of the track available for Chase Sexton. And he's like, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I won't say no to that.
So that was fun to see. I mean, like you said, it wasn't the best or our favorite track necessarily, but it was still some really fun racing, some great on-track drama, which, I mean, it just shows Supercross is a really fun sporting event. I also highly recommend attending one. We had the pleasure of going last year to Anaheim 2, which was so fun. So I definitely recommend it to anybody who can attend one of the races. Shall we go over the overall rider standing?
Yeah.
What do you
Okay, I was just wondering what's happening. It's so unfortunate that both of the Lawrence brothers are out due to injury.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Jet Lawrence being technically the defending champion.
Yeah.
Or not technically, he is the defending champion. Got injured really, really early into the season. He's out for the remainder of the season. And then Hunter was actually doing quite well, and now he's out too.
Yeah, such a bummer.
That's huge bummer.
But so overall rider champion leader is right now Cooper Webb with 236 points. Chase Sexton is second with 225. In third, our boy Kenny Roxon.
And then in fourth,
202 points. And in fourth,
our other boy.
Yes, our other boy, Malcolm Stewart with 177.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I mean, definitely.
What a fantastic turnaround also from last year for Malcolm.
Seriously, and also I think definitely one of my highlights of the season so far is his win.
In Tampa.
I mean,
oh my goodness.
At home.
Yes.
How much better can that get? I mean, of course, winning overall. But
I think the only thing that I'm upset about Malcolm winning in Tampa is that I didn't watch it live. We went back and rewatched it, but I had already seen the race results, and I was losing my mind. I lost my mind. And then the race was also so good.
So good. I mean, because we did end up watching it. And his
brother was commentating the race, and his whole family was there because it was at home. Chef's kiss.
Yes.
This is why we watch racing. It's so good.
It's so good.
If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. You're missing out, actually, by not watching it.
But I think that's all we have to say about Supercross. I mean, it was another fun race weekend. Like we had said originally, we watched only two-wheel racing this time around. I predicted that in our What to Watch video that I had released, or that we had released on Thursday. I was hoping to watch some of the GT World Challenge America because we attended it last year in person in Sonoma.
It was awesome.
Which also highly recommend. It's also so affordable.
It's $50. It was for the whole weekend.
For the weekend. And you got paddock
3
access.
days.
We got autographs. We got a shit ton of stickers and posters. And I mean, we're still figuring out a way to display it so you guys can see it eventually.
But it's so cool. For $50 you got to see, and it's not like just GT World America Challenge, whatever is racing. You had TC racing. You had so many different types of racing happening. I highly recommend, if you can catch a race, go. You could just go for Sunday, but we went for all 3 days and it was 100% worth it.
Oh, 100%. And Sonoma is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So that worked in our favor. But we will be attending the Long Beach Grand Prix in 2 weeks, which we're super, super excited about. It's something different, and it's much closer to home for us than Sonoma was. But yeah, I think this completes our race recap for the weekend. Do let us know what you've watched over the weekend. If you have any thoughts to add to our recap, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it and have a conversation with you. Like we said, we want to create a community. But next up, we will be talking about news and other things that we've come across in terms of motorsport this week.
Let's do it.